Welcome to Career Mastered Inside Career Success Program. We're so excited that you're here today. I am Dr. Lisa Lindsay Wicker, President and CEO of Linwick and Associates and the founder and publisher of Career Mastered Magazine. I'm thrilled that you decided to spend the time with us on this platform, and I want to thank LinkedIn for the privilege. Our second episode is none other than an amazing woman that we'd like to present to you. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the show. This show is designed to profile high achieving women, those women that have compelled themselves to be in the marketplace doing the business of business. And so you will see that they support one another, they empower one another, they give back to the marketplace and pave the way for the next generation of girls. That's who we're talking with. And oh, by the way, we will feature men, allies who support women and advance women's leadership. That's our mission globally. And so today I'm thrilled to present to you a female leader, one that we've come to know. She's been featured in the Career Master magazine. And now you get the chance to take a peek inside of her career success. And so I will tell you a little bit about her in just a moment. But to give you a little background on Career Master magazine, we are going into our fourth year after having launched in New York City, Charlotte, and Detroit, a magazine designed to tell her story, to begin the process of making sure that the world knows what women, extraordinary women, are doing each and every day in the marketplace. But the ability also to advance today's global woman in her leadership, in her desires, and her dream. And so I thank you for joining us and for checking out the magazine. You can get it on a number of platforms, including Amazon issue, as well as careermaster.com. And it's both print and digital. And so the summer magazine is currently still out as we plan for September, which will be released on September the 1st. And now, the reason that we're here to meet Serese Selanders. But let me tell you a little about her, if you don't mind. So, she's a lady that, as I mentioned, is really designed, as I've seen, a wearable fashion. Um, um, anyway, let me read what I have, and I think that would be better, right? And so, what I have here is that she's a lady that is saving lives in an alarming fashion. She's been featured, as I mentioned, in Career Master magazine, and she is a disruptor. She has merged fashion with a life saving technology and has also recently founded a new company to help employers help those employees who work alone. Sharice's journey as a tech entrepreneur has been anything but typical. She spent 20 years in the financial arena, the majority of that time as an executive, but life threw her a curveball. And as you know, we women get busy when there's a solution that needs to be found. And she did that. So, despite having no technical background, she invented Aura, an innovative wearable personal safety alert device. That's what I wanted to get straight, a wearable personal safety device. 2 years ago, however, Cerise launched her second company, SolusGuard, and it helps employers protect employees who work alone or in dangerous situations with a suite of hardware and software safety solutions. I am ecstatic and excited to welcome Cerise to the program. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
I am so excited because I'm talking to you. I've got such a girl crush, so I'll just let you know right off the bat. This is exciting for me.
Well, I think we both have a girl crush, so we can do that crush. I said yesterday on Instagram, I named you the Women Crush Wednesday star because I have been following your star as it continues to rise, and I'm so thrilled with what you're doing. In fact, I'm just amazed in how you've just taken on this technology as well as the tech world. When many times women certainly have to go up that ladder a little bit tougher than men. But let's get busy talking about what
Okay.
you do. And I really want to ask you, if you will, give our audience an idea of your background. Just if you can share your backstory and tell us a little bit about how you navigated your way to this career path. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity. And it is anything but typical because I had spent my whole career in financial services and, was doing extremely well and very pleased with everything, the way things were going. However, there was two things that happened. One was I was no longer loving what I was doing. I didn't really have the passion for that. And then the second thing was when my mom got ill and passed away. And then shortly after that, my dad got ill. And it's a time of life we don't often talk about. We don't often talk about this transition where you go from being the child, if you will, to being the one responsible for your parents. And so I was going through this and looking for ways to keep my dad safe. And I had this idea for different technologies that could keep him safe. And there was nothing like that on the market. And I very naively, this is a naive entrance into technology, but I thought, how hard could it be to build wearable technology? Spoiler alert, it's really hard. But I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I'm like, this can't be hard.
Yeah.
So I go head first into solving this problem and not really understanding or realize what I was getting into. And, I'm actually glad that I didn't know, because had I known the struggles that would have been and how difficult it really, really is, I wouldn't have done it. So that's how I got into it.
Well, lovely, lovely. And so tell us a little bit about the struggles, if you will, because women in tech, certainly the numbers are not as great as we would like them. And first of all, in terms of having the resources. So tell us a little bit about the struggles, and then we'll come back and hear a little bit more about your community.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you're definitely onto something. And that is, when we think about tech companies, the first thing that comes to mind for most people is generally not a middle-aged woman with absolutely no technical background.
I love it. I love it.
Generally not the first thing we think of, right? We're thinking about younger people, engineers, computer engineers. We're thinking about generally men, but that's what we think about. And it's interesting because technology isn't really about that. Technology is about solving problems. People build technology because they've identified a problem that they think can be solved in a better way through technology. So it's really about who's identified that problem and then figuring out the ways to solve it.
Right.
So for me, I didn't fit the profile, absolutely didn't fit the profile. And also where I am in Canada is, up until now, hasn't really been a hotbed for technology. And so I didn't really know many people at the time and didn't know where to get started. So it was lack of resources, lack of knowledge, lack of support, lack of kind of everything.
Right.
So those were some of the challenges that I've been through. And since that time, I'm into it now a few years. This is my second startup. There's other challenges of raising capital. Challenges of, again, not fitting that profile for the venture capitalist who's thinking, well, you're not exactly what, we see or we expect.
Right.
So getting them to understand and appreciate that, hey, this industry can come in different shapes and sizes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we always know that getting capital is a little bit more difficult for us as women. Things are changing a bit now over the last couple of years, but I still know that there's this barrier. I want to talk a little bit about limits, because in the tech industry, you mentioned several of them. You mentioned resources. Let's just start there, the money and the capital. I'm sure you had to go and get investors and try to, figure out how to put this thing on the globe. Did you have mentors to help you get past some of those limits that are naturally there for us?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started and didn't know what the heck I was doing, I just had to put myself out there and ask questions and meet people and get introduced. And I'm very pleased to say that almost everyone was willing to help. Almost everyone said, hey, here's some advice, or here's somebody that you should talk to. It was one or the other, something like that. And over time and meeting a whole bunch of people, every once in a while, you'd run into somebody who really just got you, really got me. They got what I was doing, and they wanted to be a part of it. And so it's not as though I seek them out and say, hey, do you want to be my mentor? It was more this natural coming together of like ideas and values that made it happen. And interestingly enough, in those early days, especially, those mentors were the ones that stepped up and also funded my company. And even to this day have been there to ensure that I have access to those resources and that capital. So it's funny how that all comes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. I mean, I think about how we met. In fact, one of the investors that we know in common introduced us. I don't know if you recall that, but he's a friend of ours. I'll just say his first name is Simon. And yeah, yeah. Just remember that's how we were
Right.
introduced. And when you can have people in your corner like that and who get it, in terms of
Mhm.
women, he never really had to do that. He just said, hey, you guys might want to talk to one another. And here we are today, maybe a year or so later, that we found an affinity for one another and we're watching each other grow. So I just want to say shout out to him, because that's what we're about, advancing women's leadership. And we certainly need men who support, who support that. Because in most cases, they're in a position that may be a little bit more dominant in terms of getting those resources. So let's talk a little bit about, if you will, your community, because I know that you're from Canada. And while you were in the green room, I asked you to pronounce the place that you're from. So I'm going to let you tell everybody, because I know I would mess it up. But in the meantime, tell us a little bit about your community and primarily how your community provided you with, I call it a covering, if you will, or some guidance to how you started to navigate your career.
For sure. So I'm from a province of Saskatchewan and the city of Saskatoon. And so that's in the middle, kind of the middle western part of the country, just north of Montana and North Dakota. That's where my province is located. I grew up though in a very small village in southern Saskatchewan, just on the Montana border. Grew up in a small ranching farming community, but spent most of my adult life here in Saskatoon. And so they're very different communities, but serve two different purposes. The original community that I come from as a child is all egg commercial or egg based. Everybody's an entrepreneur because that's
Yes.
what you have to be. And where I am here in Saskatoon, we are a very growing, and in Saskatchewan, very growing tech community. It's almost the final frontier, but the people here are really, really resourceful, very community based. We're a small province. Our entire province, which is huge, but geographically massive, but very small number of people. I think we're maybe only just over 1 million and 1.2 million people.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of people know each other, but there is a lot of people supporting each other. We have tech incubators here. We've just got a wonderful community of government, private, and just everybody coming together to advance technology and advance this community as much as we can. So it's extremely supportive.
Awesome. With technology being a significant part of the business world today and very transparent to the world, I hear that it is the window to the world. Would you agree and tell me a little bit about that saying that technology is the window to the world, especially given what you produced?
Absolutely. And it's a bit about what I said earlier, in that technology solves problems. That is the purpose. Not always. Sometimes people create technologies just for the sake of it, which is fine. But for the for the most part, the reason why innovation happens is because somebody is looking to solve a problem. So when you start to look at those problems and what it is that we're solving, I think we see some common threads and themes. And even if you take a classic, which is Facebook. What
Yeah.
Facebook is it's done some interesting things, but what it's done is it's connected us. It's brought us closer together. And if you consider my two companies, what we're trying to solve is how do we keep our parents and grandparents safe? And also, how do we keep people who work alone or in dangerous situations safe?
Right.
And every time a customer buys our product, I think it just illustrates that first of all, that we're solving the right problem, but that it means something to people, that we do want to stay connected, that we do want to keep our most vulnerable people safe.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about what you've invented. I am amazed. In fact, it's fashionable, so we kind of connect the fashion and the tech. But let's start with the first invention, the Aura wearable. If you can tell us more about it.
Yeah, so Aura was created, like I said, for older adults, and the idea is that medical alert devices have been around forever, 45 years plus, and the concept is great and it saves lives. However, it's puts people in boxes, and it says you must wear this. It needs to work this way. This is what it is, and it doesn't take into consideration the person who's wearing it.
Uh-huh.
And so what I found is they look like garage door openers, quite frankly. And we say, just put this on and be happy.
Yeah.
Well, who the heck is going to be happy wearing a garage door opener? And what seniors told me is like, it's a target. It says, if I wear this, I'm frail, I'm vulnerable, etc. And so we created our devices so that, and you know what, I'm embarrassed to say I'm not wearing one. In the magazine, it's in our website.
But what you have on is pretty, so we like that anyway.
Thank you. But the concept is, because it is jewelry, but it's also some very discreet devices that you can't tell what it is. The whole point of creating Aura and creating this medical alert device is that people didn't feel vulnerable wearing it. They actually felt empowered, and they felt as though that they weren't a target, and that they would wear it, because the whole thing about wearable technology is it's only good if people wear it.
That's true.
We wanted to create something that people would wear. So that's essentially how Aura came to be, and in terms of like how we put it together. And then there's tons of technology around empowering the people, and also empowering their loved ones to keep them safe.
Right.
So that's the Aura side.
And does it work with iPhone or Android or technology?
Yes. Yeah. So the wearable device pairs to any cell phone, any smartphone, through an app.
Mm-hmm.
And you set up your contacts, of which they're your primary alert. So if I press the button and you're in my contact, then it alerts you, let you know I'm having an emergency, gives you my GPS location, and all my contacts can all communicate and know what's going on. And if you don't get to me, then my device instructs my phone to call 911. So literally wakes up that phone, makes a phone call, and you know that's what's going on. So it's got that life-saving backup.
Wow. That's wonderful. I mean, I have, gone through the process with my mom aging and passing away, but I know as we come to that place, it's good to know, because at some point someone may have to take care of us. But more importantly, there are a lot of people that may be listening that will look into the device, because I remember the old style device, you can't get up, whatever. But this one is, I think, call, what is it? Help me, I can't get up type of a device. This one is a little bit more into today's world, with everybody is compelled to use their cell phone, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you can do that right away, it's just much more convenient, but it also looks better on your loved one. So I'm going to move right now to your second company, by the way, which I was not aware that you had established a second company. I can't keep up with you, lady girl. I'm telling you. So tell us about this new company that have corporations with their employees being safe.
It came out of Aura. When we're going with Aura and we were helping individuals, there were businesses that came to us and said, hey, we have employees that work alone and in dangerous positions. Can we use this product for them? And so we tried that for a while. And even on our Aura website, still we have Aura and Aura Pro. Then we started to realize that no, this is a huge need, and it's more than just the panic button, if you will. It's a lot more complex than that. Maybe people need to check in to their every so often or check out. There's more complexity. There's more of a need, and I shouldn't say more of a need, but a different need.
Yeah.
And so we tried under Aura for a while, and then we realized no, this needs its own care and attention. And so 2 years ago, we launched SolusGuard. And it is not just the hardware, but it's software in a number of different ways. We have satellite. We have this whole end-to-end solution for employers that want to keep their employees safe. So if you think about everyday heroes like healthcare workers or teachers or parole officers, mental health and addictions workers, property managers, the non-typical employee in terms of who is working in a risky job. Yes. So those are the kinds of people, and those organizations are the kinds that we help to provide the safety.
Awesome. Wow. You are doing it. So mastering your career oftentimes requires detours and pivots, right? And when you started your career, you said you were in in the financial industry. Now you're in the technology industry. Did you have a glimpse at any point that you were going to go this route and leave, a corporate, I guess, job to come over here? Was it like automatic, or did you just transition right away?
No, so this was at a point in my career where I had mentioned earlier, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't as passionate about it. And I decided to do the MBA.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking my MBA, and there's an entrepreneurship class. And it was at that time that everything was happening in my life with my parents. And I had this idea, and I brought it to my group, and we did group work. And I realized it was not the same as what we have today, but I had this idea. Well, MBA is done. I'm doing my career, doing my thing, but it just kept in the back of my mind, like, I should do this. So I started the research, but I kept my day job,
Yeah.
because that's the salary, pension, and benefits.
Good thing,
So
girl.
kept that. And I just started scratching this itch, if you will, and following it. And I did that for a couple of years and started building the business. But I got to the point where 'cause I was an executive doing a full-time job. And then all of a sudden I'm doing a full-time startup job, and I'm trying to do them at the same time.
Yeah. Tough.
And it was gradual. I would like to say it snuck up on me, but that's not fair either. But certainly at some point I'm like, okay, I got to make a decision.
Yeah. And you did a great one, by the way. There's a quote that you have been connected to, and I want to read it. And I want you to tell us what your philosophy is on this quote and maybe why it serves you. And it goes like this. It says, if you feel handcuffed by societal rules, take a step back and rethink what excites you. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that there are a lot of societal expectations placed on each one of us, whoever we are. And it's based on arbitrary things like our gender, education,
Yes.
race, background, age, where you're from, all of these things. So all of these components that seem to pigeonhole us into one place and say, this is who you are. Well, that doesn't define us. Those factors do not define us.
Right.
What's inside of us, it's what brings us joy, it's what excites us. And regardless of those societal parameters, I think we have to look from within and say, despite all of this, I want to follow my heart, I want to follow my dreams, and this is what I want to do. And clearly that's what I've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our attendees, our audience, says that I hope she doesn't mind. Diane is saying that bravery it comes from listening to you, that you show so much bravery. Let me ask you what you think is your superpower as a woman, woman leader. No matter how we look at it, how we lead as a woman is definitely different than how we lead as a man, and how we interact and how we assimilate. Certainly, whether it's corporate or, as you mentioned, when we're on this beat trying to get investors to hear us and those types of things. I mean, it's just a different set of attributes that we have to bring to the table. So, if you would tell us what you think your superpowers are, that would be awesome.
Okay. Well, I would actually say, I'm going to go on with what we're talking about. I think my first one would be courage.
Yes.
Because you need to have the courage to take those risks, to follow your gut. That's a key component of it. So I think that's one of them. I think another one is capacity.
Wow. I love that word.
One of the things that superpowers that I think I have is the ability to take on. And I think this is the case with a lot of women. And, I just want to say, I don't have children.
Yeah.
And so I am always just in awe by women who have children, also women who have children who have a career.
Yes.
I don't have those things. And I've got an extremely supportive partner. But I do think, though, that my capacity is being able to take on information, to be able to take on responsibility, to be able to take on issues and problems and all of that. And so I think I have a fairly high capacity. And I think the third thing would be grit.
Oh, wow.
Is
Yes.
something that is my other superpower,
Yes.
to see it through.
Yes. Wow. I love all of those. And, I have a little bias because I just wrote the book Capacity, and certainly it was released in April. But the reason is because I know as I talk with women similar to you, I work with women similar to you, and then myself, it does take us, using every ounce and deploying every ounce of power that we have. And we just somehow have the capacity to do it. So I would totally agree with you. Let me ask you about, and just go back to a couple of things about truth. I work with women from around the globe, and particularly one of the things we talk about is your story, and the story being about your truth, which bridges you to your destiny. Is there something that you can share with us about your authenticity that either your team realizes and loves working with you, or you just know that you show up every day and do you based upon whatever truth that might be?
I would say that it is the belief in myself. And it's something I'm been blessed with since I was a little girl, that I've
Wow.
carried through my whole life, that of who I am today. And it's not that I think I get it right all the time. It's
Yes,
not that I think I know the answers. That's not it. But it's the belief that I'm going to figure it out. And it's the belief that I'm going to get through it. And it's just that the core of who I am. And I think that's something that others, and including my team, would recognize.
I do for sure. You know, you're leading on a world stage, lady. And I know that from just having gotten to know you in the last couple of years. But because you are, I'd like you to tell me that, um, um, just share with us what you think young women would see when they see you. But more importantly, how can women in your position, especially in the tech arena, in the tech
Mhm.
industry, ensure that the younger generation of women have the inspiration to follow something like you're doing? And how are you maybe perhaps giving back in that space?
Well, I think that for men, what comes very, very naturally to them is networking, is advancing, is championing each other, is being there, showing up for one another. I think that's just something that they naturally do. And I
Yes.
think sometimes we say, oh, that's the old boys club. But I think in fairness, it's just something that they've always done, and they've always done well, and they've done it naturally. And for women, it hasn't been something that we have just naturally gravitated to, generally speaking. Some
Yes.
people are very good at it. You're very good at it. But generally speaking, it's not what we do. And I think that those of us who are in the position to help others, to champion, to be the Simons, I
Hmm.
think we need to step up, and we need to put ourselves out there to help lift up and champion our next generation of women leaders. And I want to encourage the next gen women leaders to come forward and be vulnerable and be ready to be coached and mentored, and do these things that, again, that men seem to do naturally, but that we maybe need a little bit more effort on.
I love it. I love it because the journey is really what it's all about. And when people can see that your journey is successful, which is what this is about, we take a peek inside of successful women's careers. It certainly can give not only young girls inspiration, but men as well, as I see it. There's a saying, and I'm going to leave that for at the end. But I'd like to ask you, can you share 3 words of advice before we end today's session that you've gotten along your journey that's helped you stay laser focused? And before I let you give that answer, let me just give a shout out, if I can, to some of our audience. I want to say that Stefan Franklin and Tisha Hammond, Diane Palmer, Bridget Kaler, and others have said this is a great discussion. So shout out to you, Cerise. They're really enjoying to hearing your story. So if you could answer that, I think that will help us carry it to the end here.
Like all of us, we've been through some ups and downs, and
Thank
I've had some really, really tough times, like lots of people have. And I think actually to what my husband said to me. And the 3 words that he said to me was, just keep going.
Wow.
Just keep going. And in those darkest of days where I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know where I was going to go next. It just was dark.
Yeah.
That's what kept coming to me, was just keep going.
Wow. I love that. And I think that's a great way to end our session with you. I have totally enjoyed talking with you today. I hope our audience has found it as well from what I can see in the comments they have. I want to thank you for the thoughtful, impactful, and candid discussion about your company. We're going to continue to watch your star rise around the world. I certainly have a couple of people to share about your wearable to let them know to check it out. And in the meantime, if we could just leave the audience with some parting words, and one is what I consider very important is our career mastered moment. And so the career mastered moment today that I'd like to leave you with is that it is the journey that inspires others, not the destination. It is not just a destination. Again, it is the journey that inspires others. It is not just the destination. And you certainly are on your destiny path. We appreciate you and we'll see you in the future. We'll look for you. Okay. Thank you
Thank you
so much,
so
Serese.
much.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today for another episode of Career Mastered Magazine's Inside Career Success. We are thrilled that we can bring you high profile women from around the globe to share their inspirations, their triumphs, their successes, and their challenges. And today was no different than the next or the one before. We are talking to women who are compelled to do the business of business in the marketplace. And so we thank you for joining us. We hope that your career master moment, you'll take it away. And some of the tips that were given to us today, just keep going. And then it is the journey that inspires us, not just the destination. And we'll see you on the next go round. Again, thank you for joining us. Your time is valuable and we don't take it for granted. See you again.